And away we go. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com, www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app, Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. They will deliver right to your front door, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop, or head down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up and save yourself 15% off of that Galactic goodness. It is out of this world. All right, let's get cracking here, Aaron. As we do not do shows on Friday.
Right.
There's no Big 12 action today or tomorrow. Everybody has a league game on Saturday, so I figured this show, at least for tonight, and we'll see. I don't think this is a league that does a lot of Thursday night games. It's mostly Tuesday and Wednesday. So Thursday might be a good spot for us to every week just kind of look ahead and
I don't see any.
what
I don't see any Thursday games the entire season.
yeah. I know UC doesn't have any. I didn't want to
Nope.
speak for sure on the rest of the league.
I have the whole Big 12 pulled up, and there's not a single
Okay.
Thursday to pick to look at the slate.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe this is our weekend, like our chance to take a look at the weekend, because this thing is I think it's gonna be pretty volatile, Aaron. There's a group of 3 or 4 teams that have separated themselves a little, and then another group of 3 or 4 teams that are kind of right behind them. And then as you get to the bottom, it falls off a little bit in terms of metrics, 11, 12, 13, 14. But the top 10, 11 it's going to be a battle. I mean, the defending home court is going to be a big deal in this league, and you're going to get some of that in week 1. So I think it's important, at least once a week heading into the weekend, to kind of get a gauge for things. So we'll put you in the driver's seat. Sure. And we'll take a look at weekend number 1, a full slate of games, 7 games, 6 of them involving ranked teams. Let's get it rolling.
Let's start in Lawrence, Kansas at the there's 2 2:00 games. That one, Kansas hosts TCU. Emmanuel Miller of TCU leading the way with 16 points per game. Kevin McCullough Jr. with 20.4 points per game for Kansas. Both of them hitting roughly about 50% of their shots from the field. What else do we need to be on the look for as the number 2 team in the country hosts the 11-2 TCU Horned Frogs?
TCU is solid. Emmanuel Miller's a stud. I mean, there's really no way kind of around that.
He also leads the team in rebounds with 6 rebounds per game.
He gets after it on both ends of the floor. 6'7", Canadian kid, kind of a jack of all trades. Also, 2.8 assists per game. Like you said, over 50% from the floor. Jacoby Coles is kind of, well, there's a couple. Jacoby Coles, Micah Peavy, and Jameer Nelson are all over 11 points a game. So Miller, 16 points a game. Coles, 14-4. Peavy, 14-4. And Nelson, 11-1. And then Avery Anderson at 9-2. So they've got some pop at the top of the roster. It's a Jamie Dixon team. They're going to be solid defensively. Ken Palm, they are 49th in adjusted offense, 35th in adjusted defense. So just a solid. When people talked about how bad the American was, teams like this are what the American didn't have. There was always those teams at the very top. There would be 2 or 3 teams, a high seed, and then a couple tournament teams. And then the gap was massive. There were none of these TCU teams, and if you don't play well, they're a top 50 offense and defense. They can get you at any given time. Do I think they get Kansas at Kansas? No. KJ Adams, I think, is my favorite player in the Big 12.
You've mentioned that, I think, on your
I
show
love
last
him.
night.
Yeah, I love him. He does everything for Kansas. So I don't know what the predictive numbers say. I know the lines don't come out until tomorrow, Friday. But man,
ESPN's their analytics say that Kansas has a 72.6% chance to win this game. I mean, at the end of the day, both teams average over or right around 80 plus points per game.
Kansas against a much tougher schedule. I mean, McCullers a beast. Like Kansas is just solid right now.
It's going to be. I think it's still going to be a slugfest, and I don't look for any team to run away with it. I think it'll be close. Moving on to the next 2:00 game, though, West Virginia visits Houston. As Houston, the number 3 team in the country, still undefeated at 13-0. ESPN giving them a 98.9% chance to win this game. That said, Quinn Slazinski, West Virginia's had kind of the same issue that Cincinnati's had, not being able to put their full roster out at any given moment throughout the entire season thus far. But Quinn Slazinski leading all scorers with 15.5 for West Virginia. LJ Cryer with 16.9 for Houston. What else we got to look forward to in this game?
Technically, Aaron, Raekwon Battle in 3 games is averaging 27.3 points a game.
That's a lot. He only just got eligible, and it took Dave Yost, Dave Yost raising all kinds of hell to get that to go down.
So they have not. They're a lot like UC. They have not hit a stride because they just haven't had. They got 3 guys back: Slazinski, Noah Farrakhan, and then Kirk Caruso with his suspension. Right. Once they find a little bit of a rhythm, they're going to be a problem. I don't think that happens Saturday. And you guys know I've talked about I still have a ton of respect and I like Houston a lot. But this, to me, from when I've seen them, doesn't look like Houston of the past 2 years. So it's a little bit of a different style. They don't have the type of guys that they've had the past couple of years in terms of their roster construction. That said, I have no doubt that Kelvin Sampson can figure out ways to win with pretty much any type of roster that he has.
Sure.
So that's me saying when I watch them, I'm not seeing the strengths that I've seen in years past, but new strengths might develop because they've got a little bit different type of roster. I think they probably comfortably win this game Saturday, even though I think as the season goes on, West Virginia is going to pop a couple people if their coach can coach. If their previous coach was still there, that team would be dangerous, even if they were just now figuring it out.
It is the most lopsided of the ESPN matchup predictor on the Big 12 slate. It is the most lopsided as far as records go, with West Virginia coming in at 5-8 against Houston's 13-0. So we'll see how that goes down. 3:00 tip-off. Baylor will visit Oklahoma State. Baylor coming in the number 18 team in the country. ESPN's matchup predictor giving Baylor 74.2% chance to win. Jacoby Walter, the leading scorer for Baylor at 15.9 points per game. Javon Small, a guard for Oklahoma State, 15.2 points per game himself. Oklahoma State, 5 losses already, but Baylor, it's an in-state rivalry. Who knows?
So this Baylor team,
but
it's a conference rivalry.
Close enough state.
This Baylor team is interesting because they do not defend like we've seen some of the Baylor teams of recent vintage defend. That was evident in their 2 losses. They're 73 in adjusted defense. But, Aaron, 3 in adjusted offense. And Oklahoma State has been very choppy. They're very young. They're inconsistent on offense. Only 144 in the country in offensive efficiency. Callie wasn't happy with that. She thinks that they can be better than that. 60th in defensive efficiency. So they are probably going to have a difficult time keeping Baylor from putting points on the board. And if you haven't seen Jacoby Walter, watch him. He is you're only going to get to see him this year, and Cincinnati only plays Baylor once. If you're somebody that is going to like watching conference games, watch him play. He can go.
Baylor's putting up almost 90 points a game at 89.2. Although Oklahoma State's won 5 in a row compared to Baylor's streak of only 2. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Baylor's not
Michigan State.
infallible.
They lost to Michigan State and Duke, Aaron. Now, those are the 2 toughest games they have played, you could argue. But
what's that like?
Apparently you get to number 11 in the country.
I just meant
I know what you meant.
All right.
Now, I mean, they've beaten
18 in the country. 11's Oklahoma.
They've beaten Auburn, Seton Hall, Florida, Oregon State. So their schedule's got a little more beef to it than
the joke
you were making.
Sure.
But they still lost to the 2 best teams they played.
All right. Upset alert. ESPN is giving Iowa State a 57.3% chance to take out Oklahoma, the number 11 team in the country at Oklahoma. Should be interesting. That one tips off at 6 o'clock. Taman Lipsy for Iowa State averages 15.5. Otega Owe, 15.5 himself for Oklahoma. Those are your leading scorers.
So Oklahoma has beaten Iowa, USC, Providence, and Arkansas. They've got some battle testing that they've experienced. North Carolina beat them 81-69. So that's their one loss. They have been really consistent, but I like Iowa State a lot. They are number 3 in adjusted defense. So they're going to make it difficult for this Oklahoma offense to score. I think I'm going with Oklahoma, but it wouldn't surprise me if Iowa State got one on the road. But what we're looking at so far, though, is a lot of teams expected to hold serve in this first weekend.
Yep.
We'll see if it happens.
Another 6 o'clock tip-off. UCF, another newcomer with Cincinnati, 9-3, travels to Kansas State, who sits at 10-3. Kansas State favored by ESPN Analytics, 65.4% chance to win this game. Jalen Sellers leads all scorers for UCF with 18.6, and Cam Carter for Kansas State has 16.5 points per game. What do you think about this one, Chad?
Sellers is interesting. He's a bucket getter at 18.6 a game,
Clearly.
but only a 25% 3-point shooter. So if you can keep him in front of you, and obviously easier said than done, if you can keep him in front of you, you can cause some problems. The problem is keeping him in front of you.
Now you say that he sits at 45.1% from the field. Cam Carter, the leading scorer for Kansas State, sits at under 40% at 39.5.
2 volume guys. Don't make no mistake.
Sure.
These are 2 dudes that they are the number 1 option for their team, and they have to ice their shooting arm at the shoulder at the end of every game. They are putting shots on the rim.
I'm just saying Cam Carter less than 40%. That's low for this conference.
Yeah, but I was strictly just talking 3-point percentage because Sellers at least
makes up
he
for
can get you off the bounce, and he gets to the line a decent amount. 83% free throw shooter, so when he gets there, he converts. Kansas State is one for me early in this conference play that I want to get a better feel for. They have not played well. I have not had a chance to really catch them yet. They had 2 stars last year, Marquise Noel and Keaton Johnson. And they are more of a committee approach this time around. Even though they've got they've got a main dude, it's more offense by committee than it was last year. I like Jerome Tang a lot. I like the way his teams play, but to date, with everything that's happened there and the Marquise Noel situation, that's an interesting team to me because they can either get it together and be a middle to upper pack Big 12 team, or I think there's a possibility with adversity, if it goes wrong, he could have a challenging year too, even though I think he's a really good coach. So if they lose to UCF, the radar goes up on Kansas State a little bit. I don't think they do, but that's kind of my read on it.
Texas hosting Texas Tech, Texas being the number 20 team in the country, both teams sitting at 11-2. The leading scorer for Texas Tech is Pop Isaacs, averaging 15.8 points per game. Max Abmas, 17.2 points per game for the Longhorns. ESPN's analytics giving the Longhorns roughly about a 69% chance to win this game.
Nice. Texas is another one. This is a game that it's on ESPN too. So if you're a UC fan, I would recommend trying to sit down and watch that one. Texas obviously playing the Bearcats on Tuesday at Fifth Third Arena.
You can watch UCF, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Texas, and Cincinnati, BYU back to back.
So this one's going to be interesting because the metrics say Texas is solid. They're one of those really good but not elite teams metrically. 31 in offense, I think 44 in defense. So they're very good, but they haven't done anything that kind of separates them analytically. So it's a team that's going to have some variation, which is generally how that works. The teams that are elite, they don't fluctuate a whole lot. The elite thing they do is the elite thing they do. If you're right in that second to third tier, that means you're going to have some good nights. You're going to have more good than bad, but there's going to be bad sprinkled in. Whereas, what is Texas going into this final Big 12 season? They've got some good pieces. There's questions, I think legit questions about Rodney Terry being a high level coach. More so of a situation where he took over a team last year that was loaded, and they won enough in the NCAA tournament that if they win one less game in the NCAA tournament, Aaron, Rodney Terry's not the coach of Texas this year. If they don't beat Xavier, he's probably not there this year. But they get to the Elite Eight, and it's real hard to fire your Elite Eight interim coach.
Sure.
So I've got an eye on Texas. If there's an upset watch, might for me be here to see if Texas Tech can sneak up and get Texas in Austin.
And of course, the 10 o'clock tip is your Cincinnati Bearcats taking on BYU in Provo. If you want to catch anything we had to say about that, you can check out the newest addition to the BCJ umbrella. There at the end, you and Chris touched just a tad on BYU, but hat tip to Chris Lepore for his video breakdown on the.
I gotta ask a question.
Yeah, what you got?
Brendel's breakdown was what he came up with. What?
I'm all for alliteration.
Yeah, I was gonna go Le Film Room, as in Lepore.
Yeah, I got it.
Make it sound French
for
no reason, just unironically.
Yeah. I mean, look, if he's willing to give you the spot, and of course alliteration is going to get me pretty much 100% of the time.
But I'm not breaking down anything.
I understand, and I thought it was the ego in you that named it that.
No, I'm not breaking down shit. You know, when it comes to this stuff, it is not about my ego.
I know.
My show with George Vogel
Look,
that I wanted to do for a decade.
I was just making the joke. Come on.
I know, but I had to get mine. But I gave you my show.
You win some, you lose some. So what is it? You always you like to say sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield.
Yeah.
But no, good job on that. But if you want to catch any more of the BYU breakdown, we did it on Tuesday with George Vogel and Brent, and then on the crossover between the BBP and George in the Jungle, and then again you and Dave on last night's BCJ.
We need to get back to 2 games a week. Like having 2 podcasts all dissect all the same things. We need to get back to a little variety in our life.
We were at 3 now with you and Chris.
Yeah.
So
I know we got to do a little better.
In any case,
we got to spread the floor a little better.
Yeah, I see what you did there. That was Brendel's breakdown.
Yeah, thanks. That's the nightcap. We'll see you Saturday. This is the nightcap. I just said that. Brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BCJ.
See ya.